Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be studying from the Gospel of Mark, a story that is sometimes called the story of the widow's mite, which is the name of a little copper coin that you'll learn more about in a minute. Two small coins comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, verses 38 through 44. I'm pleased to be with you and appreciate the invitation. My name is Mary Crist. I'm a priest. I'm also an Indigenous person enrolled in the Blackfeet Nation in Montana. I am the priest at St. Michael's Episcopal Ministry Center in Riverside, California, and a part-time faculty member at Bexley Seabury Seminary in Chicago. I coordinate Indigenous theological education for the Episcopal Church out of the Church Center in New York. I earned the Doctorate of Education at Columbia University in New York, the Master of Divinity at Claremont School of Theology, and the Master of Education at Pan American University, and the Bachelor of Arts at the University of California, Berkeley. I have been happily married for 47 years now to the Reverend Will Crist, and we have 2 children, 6 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Let's look at the gospel today together. In the first part, Jesus denounces the scribes. As he taught, he said, "Beware of the scribes, who like to walk around in long robes, and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses, and for the sake of appearance, say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." And the second part, the widow's offering. He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. And then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all that she had to live on." I don't know about you, but I like to know where stories are taking place. And this story is set at the temple of Herod. During the time of Christ, the temple was in the middle of an 80-year-old construction project that had begun under King Herod. In fact, it was called Herod's Temple. It was located high on the hilltop of Mount Moriah. It could be seen for miles around Jerusalem. It was the most beautiful building in the world at that time. As you can see, the temple really was majestic. It was 150 feet tall, and the whole temple complex covered about 37 acres, or approximately the equivalent of 26 football fields. People had to make many large donations to pay for this building. Now, inside the building, near the center of the temple complex, was the Court of the Women. It was also called the Treasury, and it held 13 money collection boxes. Each box was labeled for the type of offering to be placed in it, and on top of each box was a trumpet-shaped container where donations could be made. As one can imagine, the coins falling down the shaft of the trumpet made a loud noise when they hit the bottom. Sometimes it was loud enough for others to hear. The larger the donation, the more noise the coins made. Sometimes the donors would shout out the amount they were giving for everyone to hear. The temple was meant to be a place where God's people could come to worship, to make sacrifices, and to learn to serve others. Instead, it was being corrupted by pride and hypocrisy, especially among the wealthy and religious elite. Jesus cautioned the people to beware of the scribes because they acted as if they were better than anyone else, walking around in their long robes and expecting to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to be given the best seats in the synagogues and the best seats at places of honor like banquets. You can see them here in their rich clothing, the fabrics, very rich and beautiful. A scribe was an expert in the law of Moses, like a lawyer. They did not receive a salary for their teaching, and in fact, it was considered unethical for them to use good deeds or the Torah to make themselves look good. Instead of using the Torah to earn money, the scribes encouraged the belief that the people would be blessed by God if they supported the tribes by giving them money and other practical favors. The rich can afford to be generous, said the scribes, but the widows who were more tender-hearted than financially smart and who lacked money, well, the scribes would either take advantage of their generosity or in some cases even steal from the widows who had asked the scribes to help them. This verse says, "Those who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers, well, these shall receive the greater damnation from God." So if they were not honest scribes, they would be paying for their deeds. Well, Jesus came to the temple. He was probably tired from his travels, and he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the trumpet-shaped money boxes. And here he is. These don't look like wealthy people. Probably his disciples and others. And they were watching these more wealthy people come in and drop in all of these coins and listen for the noise they would make. Many rich people put in large sums of money. And this is what the coins look like. And then one day a poor widow came, and she walked up to the money box and put in only 2 small copper coins, which were worth, actually, and today they would be worth much less than a penny. And here she is with all the wealthy people around her, dropping in her 2 mites. Now, when Jesus saw her drop all the money that she had into the box, he called his disciples and said to them, "Oh my goodness, truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the treasury." Jesus said, "They all gave out of their wealth." In other words, they gave what was left over after they had maybe paid their bills or bought things they wanted to buy. But this poor widow, she gave out of her poverty. She put in everything that she had, all that she had to live on. And I want you to look at her face, because widows in those days were pretty much left on their own. They had to survive by begging. They had to figure out where they would get food because they didn't have money to pay for it. And what you can see in this is, well, translated as a woman who is thoroughly frightened, a woman who cowers down or hides herself for fear. Often this can involve the idea of roving about in wretchedness, which is a fancy way of saying she was a beggar. This widow is shown as someone completely bereft, sterile, barren. It means more than infertility. It means a person who has lost everything. There were no social programs to take care of her. She was truly alone and on her own. Wow, that's a lot to take in. And we'll have some questions to discuss in a minute. But I would like you to see what this might look like in a story from today's world. And the story that I'm going to share with you was placed on social media by a gentleman named Felix Mills. And this is a true story. And I'm choosing this story to share with you because I am an Indigenous person. And we believe that all of us are connected. Even the animals, even the people are connected to one another. And what we give to one, we give to all. Well, here's the story. A fisherman was fishing just outside the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California. He spotted a whale who was completely tangled up in a fishing net. The fisherman radioed for help, and within a few hours, a rescue team arrived. They determined that the whale was so badly tangled up that the only way to save her life was for them all to dive into the water, cut the ropes one by one, and untangle her. It was a very dangerous act because one slap of her tail could kill a rescuer. The rescuers worked for many hours, cutting the rope with curved knives, and eventually they freed her. And when she was free, the divers say that this whale swam around in joyous circles. She then came back to each and every diver, one at a time, nudged them gently, and pushed them as if thanking each one. Some said it was the most incredibly beautiful experience they had ever had. The man who cut the rope out of her mouth says that her eye was following him the entire time, and he will never be the same. May God bless us, all of us, with people who will help us to get untangled from the things that bind us. People like the divers, people like the widow. I pray that we may finally realize that we are all connected, that everything the Creator made is related to everything else. And I pray that we may, too, like the widow, discover the joy of giving it all. Now, I've been asked to provide you with a few questions for discussion, and so these are the questions that I might suggest to start your discussion, and certainly other questions are just fine. But here are my questions. Who do you identify with in this story, and why? What do you think Jesus is trying to teach us in this gospel story? And finally, is the reason for giving more important than the nature of the gift itself? What do you think is the best gift that we can give? Explain your thinking. Now, I hope that this time together will be helpful to you. I hope it will stimulate you to share stories of your own, maybe some times that you were giving all you could give at that moment for someone else. And I hope that you'll remember the story of the whale also, and how we are related to all living things, the animals we see, the birds, the trees, the ocean itself, and all of nature is a gift to us from our Creator. God bless each one of you. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your time together. Thank you so much. Goodbye.